is up, everybody? Hello, Wonder Fam. Welcome back to another episode of Allison's Wonderland, where we go into the wild and wonderful world of animation and video games. And today we are sitting down with the stunning Erica Shroeder to chat all about her illustrious career as a voice actress and some of the fantastic projects that she has been in. So I am so excited to introduce. Some of you already know Erica and are well familiar with her work on shows like Pokémon and as the original voice of Luffy on One Piece, as the voice of Ilvira from Secret Magic Control Agency, a Netflix #1 rated property from 2021, and so many more. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and add Erica to the chat right now, and we'll get started. Hey, happy Thursday.
Hey, well, you're smiling. How are you today?
I'm great, but happy Thursday.
It's been so long.
I know, we haven't seen each other since Boston. We were at the Northeast Collectibles. Is that what it's called?
Such an interesting setup. Do you remember?
Was that fake plant?
Yeah.
I remember that the hotel was leaking.
Yeah, the hotel was leaking, and there was this hilarious thing where I was convinced that all of the plants were fake, and you were like, no, they're real. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure they're fake. And so we were on my little thing, and you went out and you like picked up one of the random, like, it's real. Do you remember that?
So funny. Yeah, I remember. I remember some of our late night chats. That was a fun time. Yeah. Oh, it's so good to see you today. Yeah. And so now you've had a very long career as a voice actress. You've been doing this for a number of years, but you actually started doing theater and Broadway and all that. So how did you kind of find your way into voice acting for regular act?
As a kid, we all have our dreams and stuff. And I always wanted to be the voice of a cartoon. I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't know when. And my other dream was to be on Broadway. Again, same thing. I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know when. So my trajectory was for Broadway because I was like, the other thing's going to happen somehow. But there's like, at that point, and still, there's no university program for that, There is acting degree for classical theater, musical theater, on camera, but there really isn't one designed for the animation voice actor, right? So it just kind of, Broadway did happen first, and then VO happened, I think, a year or two later, and it happened because I got an audition for this show called Ultramantiga. Does anybody remember Ultramantiga, you guys? I tell people this. I don't know if her name was Rena or Raina, because we did like 6 episodes, and then they like called us back in, and they were like, hey, everyone's going to have to replace the character's name because we actually got it wrong, or, they wanted it this way. So we had to go back in and like redub the name. And then, so I don't actually know what she was, but she was the ingenue. She was a lead. And what was funny was, I know you and I both do a lot of our own voice, but we also do a lot of vocal transformation, right? Yeah. So I just assumed that I would get my first job being someone completely other than myself. But this was my voice, completely my voice, just like, I would call it my mom voice, like my gentle maternal side. Like, you love it first. Yeah, the show. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I grew up in upstate New York in Albany. And just kind of knew that, New York is 3 hours away, and my aunt lived there. And so we would visit her every once in a while, and that was always really exciting for me,
And that's so crazy to think too. Like, New York is just like a hop, jump, and you can like touch it, taste it. But did you ever live in the city?
Oh yeah,
and lived here for 10 years.
It was a long, I have an interesting relationship with New York. I loved working there. I didn't love living there. But I am an optimist. I think that's why you and I connected so big time when we met. It's like we both had this really positive energy and this love for life. And I was like, I'm not going to acknowledge even how it feels to live in a city where, I don't know if you grew up in a suburb or not, but generally if you grow up in a suburb, it's like you smile, nod, or say hello when you see someone, right? New York, it's different, So I had to learn a different kind of nod because otherwise, every man on the street thought I was like proposing. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just like on that. So I came up with this really hilarious nod, and it was like, I'm here for business. But also, like, if you in New York, if you smile, nod, or say hello, you're either saying like I want a date, or you're saying F you. You know what I mean? If you make eye contact with someone too long, you're saying so. But it's so really interesting adjustment, and I never really got used to it. I was there for 16 years, and it still kind of broke my heart that I couldn't do that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Erica, she walks down the street.
I know. I feel
hello.
Good day. Good morning.
Life is a musical.
That from She Loves Me, right? Yeah.
It's from the musical of your life, actually.
You would love She Loves Me. It's hilarious.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah. Writing it down. So you got this random animation. It was that was the icon.
I should have said that. It was a live action series.
Oh,
yeah. So like,
yeah, live action,
which is a lot more difficult.
Yeah, because the lip flaps are so much more specific,
way more specific,
and also the physicality and all of that. Yeah. Where was the dub from? Do you remember?
At that point, it was different networks, but I think it was before the Fox Box or right when the Fox Box started. So it was with 4Kids Productions. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Seems like a lot of people got their start at 4Kids, actually.
There were so many like little studios around there in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s in New York. There were like little hubs, and you kind of would start with one place. And if you were, a good person, not a diva, you showed up on time, extremely versatile. That was very important. And, if you had those criteria, you could sort of build a web from there. There were some people who didn't build that web because they were divas or they weren't versatile enough. So they kind of, it got pigeonholed into certain types and stuff like that. But back then, during that time, you could really build a web for yourself.
Back then. And so then, back in the day. But after Ultron, then what was what project do you consider to be your biggest break? Or was there one?
I don't know. I mean, after that, I think I played a bully character in Pokémon. I still don't remember his name. And then
what
season 6?
Season of Pokémon was it?
And then it was maybe someone will know. And then I guess one of my biggest first roles, I believe, was Lyserg in Shaman King. Yeah, and
And is there a story behind that casting?
God, I may have never told this story before. Oh dear. I did like 6 or 7 episodes of Max in Pokemon. A lot of people don't know this, and then I was recast because they said I had too much texture in my voice, which the director and I kind of thought was funny because we were like, I'm directable. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, you could have just given me the note.
Yeah.
I would have just gotten rid of half the texture and would have been perfect. But at that point, they kind of weren't doing that. They just kind of like, they heard something and they were like, nah, And then, so, yeah.
Sure. And even still,
I think that came first. So they heard some of that. It could have been the other way around. And then I got Lyserg. And then around the same time, Nurse Joy and Mai Valentine, because Megan Hollingshead, who I finally just met and like, just so crazy. We've been friends online for years. She moved to Los Angeles and, I've had remote work. Nobody was doing remote work. So when Meg left, she was giving up her role.
Sure.
And I was the best voice match and essence match for both of her parts. I auditioned for separately and just happened to get both. So I was like, thank you, Megan. Thank you, Megan.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that's amazing. It's funny how it's all cyclical, right? You win some, you lose some, and then you're back again. And yeah. So then you start working and you're doing some voice acting here and there. How did your singing come into play? I know you've had different opportunities throughout the years.
And performance in general, or both?
Well, I mean, even both. I was thinking more in roles with voiceover role.
Well, there's like a lot of characters just suddenly sing one episode. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, okay, I guess we're singing. So that's been the case at least 30 times where a character just like is going to sing this episode. Melloetta was an interesting thing. It was a last minute thing that happened that was kind of an emergency. In Japan, they had put 2 tracks together and they never had done that before. They always were like separate sound design from the VO. And in this particular instance, something like that. I can't remember which 2 tracks were together that shouldn't have been, but they were like, you know, they knew I'd been on Broadway and they knew I did voice matching really well. So they were like, Erica, can you come in? Like, we got a deadline. We have no idea this was going to be mixed this way. Come in this way. We have an emergency. Can you come in and be this character, Melloetta? So I was like, sure, you know. So I came in like that day or the next day, and it was 3 songs, and there was no sheet music, no guide track, no lyric sheet. Now,
no guide track. Wow.
I'm saying no lyric sheet, right? Because there are no lyrics. I mean, they're just, she made sounds, you know. But it was interesting because that's when I discovered.
Well, that you're like, is that what he or I love you?
You said that 'cause it's exactly what I was thinking, because the sounds were not like, it wasn't like an eh and it wasn't an eh. It was something in between a lot of the time. And I was like, how do I capture this in between sound? Reh, you know, is kind of what it sounded like to me. So I was like, I think I had an hour to do all 3 songs. Just listen, repeat, like saying, make it, you know, voice match, but also kind of not as much my own. But I mean, obviously I couldn't do it exactly a voice match, 3 songs in 1 hour, but it was really fun to use my skills and to have them be excited about that. It was a really fun time.
Yeah. When you get a sound alike or a voice match, what is your process? How do you
this? I'm sure you have an answer too. When I teach and stuff, I mean, a bunch of different processes I go through when I teach, but back in the day when we were doing, you know, we still do these voice matches in person sometimes, meaning the audition process. No matter what language it was in, I would, you know, speak along gibberish with the sounds that were going on, you know. So if it was a French thing, I'd be like, you know, and it's just like, no, sorry, I don't care. Like, and it wasn't random things. I was trying to like exactly mimic what I heard, but I don't speak French. I should, because I am French, but I chose to speak Spanish, but so I had to just mimic the sounds. And for me, mimicking it immediately after is the way to get into the zone. And then there's, you know, you could teach a class on that, on how to do it over time. But that was always the best thing. Yeah. Let's just say you've done that and you've kind of got this French feel in your mouth. You've got to get rid of that, neutralize it, but keep the voice. So, you know, let's just say it was down here and a little more breathy and sort of low. So you kind of keep the essence of the pitch, the melody. You know, are they someone who goes up and down a lot? Are they someone who kind of stays even? What is their speed like? I mean, that is the least important when you're dubbing, because it's like, it's kind of dictated for you. Is there texture? Is there no texture? Things like that you're thinking about. But yeah, that was kind of my process. And it was just one of those things that I used to do a lot of impressions early on in my career. And so I loved voice matching. That was something I always wanted to do. So yeah, that's how it happened.
Yeah. And a lot of times it seems like they are trying to honor if you've got but it does seem like sometimes they do want to stay true to sort of the vocal tone of what you're dubbing, and other times you have some more freedom and flexibility. So it's kind of like on a project.
Yeah. And then sometimes you'll like get it with the exact voice match, and then you'll get the part and they'll say, now we want to change it a little bit, or like, now let's make it your own. That's happened several times, to be honest, which I always found interesting. You want because then they're saying, it's more about the essence match than the exact vocal match. So that happens too, which I'm sure you've had the experience of.
Yeah. It seems like, there's a certain amount of flexibility and like letting go that comes with the project, just like showing up and being like, okay, I am your tool. How do you want to?
I love that you said that I'm your tool. I tell people, you walk in and your most important job is to check your ego at the door. That's what I tell people. Check your ego at the door, going on a ride, and, you just have to be the vessel. You have to take in what they're saying.
Yeah.
You work a lot with the same people. The directors want to hire you again because they're like, Allison takes direction really well. I mean, it's the most important thing is to just like have an idea, have a strong idea. The minute they say, that's not it, you can't be like, but, right? You have to be like, yeah,
pretty sure my idea. No.
So at the door, you have to be like, okay, all right, what do you want? And then give them what they're looking for. Right?
A lot of questions. I'm seeing some questions in the timeline. First off, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're here with Erica Shroeder. My name is Allison Packard, and this is Allison's Wonderland. It's a weekly podcast that I do where I interview people that work in animation and video games. And Erica and I met at a convention, I think about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And so I've been trying to get her to come on the show. I can't wait, and I'm so excited that we're finally here. Yes, this gorgeous woman is camera shy, if you can believe it. But this is such an amazing opportunity. Now, Erica, you voiced over 300 animated characters. I just have to ask, do you have a favorite?
That's a fun question and like a frequent one, I tell people it's kind of different a lot depending on the day you ask me. Like, I don't have favorites per se, but there are ones that kind of speak to me in different ways, There is a show that I'm working on now called Boy, Girl, Dog, Cat, Mouse, Cheese. It only took me about 6 months to clean up, but I play two of the main characters. It's a prelay. So I play Cheese and Cat, and I'm in love with both of these characters, like deeply in love with them. And I do get to improv singing with Cheese a lot. So some of the songs in season 1, they now have a writer, but like a lot of the songs from season 1 are my improvs. Yeah.
Nice. Oh my gosh. Do you happen to remember any of that?
Cheese, making birds talk, walking up the seas, with Johnny up, I'm taking you downtown, cause I'm Cheese Cat, the toughest cheese, alright. I actually just made it, I wanted to be like Prince. I was like, to be like Prince.
You wanted to what? Oh, yeah.
So like, I mean, I think I had lyrics, but Prince or cheese as Prince.
What type of cheese would Prince be?
That is is there one that has like a purple hue to it? There wouldn't be Blue Saga in there. Yeah. There is a cheese that has a purple rind, isn't there?
Yes, there's, I'm Googling it on the side here, and then it's like, it's apparently a type of weed known as like marijuana strain called purple cheese. That was like, that's not what I'm looking for. There's also a purple loon cheddar, which is perfect. You use purple loon cheddar.
God, it's the best. I mean, I told myself when I was little, I had a lot of like strange rules for myself. I said, I'm not going to drink my calories. I love to eat. So I don't drink juice, soda, although I made an exception today because it was the kids' last day of school before spring break. and they love boba. I think there's a boba place they can walk to. So they were like, Mom, do you want boba? And I was like, yes, I do. But I was a little worried because I'm super sensitive to caffeine. So like right before we went live, I was like, ooh,
Me too.
I feel kind of funny because I get like, I think I can remember this when we were hanging out. But yeah, I can't even have a cup of coffee. Like, I can have a half a cup of decaf. That's as much as my body can handle.
Yeah.
It's great.
I love me some decaf. I'm also not really on cafe, but the occasional, now I can like sneak it in. Kate says caffeine makes me sleepy, which is insane. And I've never heard that.
It makes me feel like I've never done drugs, but I would imagine that it's like a hard drug because it literally makes me feel a little bit like off. I can't even explain it, but some people are.
Yeah. It is a drug,
right?
It is a drug. So, you started working on Pokemon in season 6, you said, and you still work on it to this day. What has it been like being with a project for so long? How many years would that be?
20, I
like,
I think 20 years.
20 years.
And it's like, I've had different directors. I've had, characters that have been around for a long time. I've had ones that have come and gone. I've had ones that like showed up and then, 6 years later they show up again. And then I keep adding characters to my roster.
They just have to, they're like, okay, who voiced, seven, in episode 7, who voiced?
One of my, he goes by Adam and Ed, but he's been a fan of mine for a really long time. And he used to send plushies to Duarte for me. And I told him, I was like, when I would get a new role, he would like send a plushie. He didn't send all of them, but it was so sweet. And I was like, these are going to my kids, and he was like, that's totally fine. And he would write me a really nice, but this one wasn't from him. But anyway, so because of him, I did start collecting some of the plushie.
Oh yeah. Everyone guy here. Happens to be on my desk. It's so funny. I know Tamar, who's I think on the live right now, gave me a Transformers blanket, like one of those blanket things for Christmas. I did the Transformer VR game. I thought that was so nice. And then my son stole it. And Tamar, I didn't even tell you, he every single day like comes out from his bed in the blanket, in his Transformers blanket, and like hangs out in it all morning long, has breakfast in it. Like this, you get him out of it.
This was a plushie that was made by a fan. It's super heavy. And they have like beans in it. I don't know. Like, look at the detail on this thing. And then it was really funny because my daughter Madigan at one point liked to wear it just like on her head. Hey, she just liked the weight of it because it's kind of heavy. But anyway, I have amazing things that Anna sent me.
So speaking of your daughter Madigan, she's got quite the little voiceover career on her own. I know. I was like, maybe we should be like cult with her.
I said, you might want to drop in. She was like, no, I can't. But she's actually coming to LA with her dad on Saturday because Bat Wheels is having their rap party. And yeah, it almost didn't happen because I was like, I'm booked all day, the day of the rap party for Boy, Girl, Dog, Cat, Mouse, Cheese. So I was like, I can't go. Plus, we were leaving on a family vacation the next day. So if we Tetris this like you would not believe. We just need some really good travel karma or people are going to get left behind.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, that's amazing. When did she get her start voice acting? Now, Madigan is
this queen now. But no, you sorry, Henry, when
we met now. Okay.
13. So I know, right? Yeah.
She just
she got her start at NYAV. They liked her a lot. So she was oh my God, what was the name? I should not forget the name of this first thing because I was in it and I was the title character.
Let me just remind you, over 300 animated characters, Erica. You're about to forget.
Named after my character. Anyway, it was just like that was the first thing. And then she did My Miracle, a tiny little part in that. And then she did Mirai, which ended up being
Academy Awards.
So good. Like, I mean, when I saw it in the theater, I was like, oh my God, this thing is amazing. She plays the mother as a child, as a hellion. It is the funniest scene. I mean, it's hysterical. And when she did that, because I was always like, I'll just let you have experiences. You know, she did something for Pinna. And she was getting these experiences a lot. Like, people really liked working with her. So then after the Mirai thing happened, I was like, oh, I think maybe I should try and get you an agent, you know? And then I was like, oh my God, maybe my first agent when I was at NYU, like I worked with an agent for like less than 6 months because I was like, I can't do this to my fellow student. I can't miss class. I'm very type A. So I was like, I gave it all up to just be faithful to school, we'll say. like school was my boyfriend, and that was my like side hustle, and I was like, bye-bye. Anyway, so it was weird because I had just left Abrams, which is now A3, and I had gone to Stewart, and then my agent from NYU, from when I was at NYU, also left like 3 months after me and went to Stewart. So I was like, oh, I think I should just call her. And so they said they definitely wanted an appointment, and you know, and that's how she kicked it into high gear. And then she did her first big thing for television was a Coco in Chuggington, which is a show about trains.
Okay. Did you train her? Did you how did that work? Did she start working?
She did not start working before she could read. She was an early reader, and people that are listening, right, need to hear this from us. Voiceover is the only performance where you have to be able to read and express simultaneously. So it's very different than every other art form because other art forms require memorization and rehearsal. With voiceover, you know, we have to be on the fly, in the moment, able to take that direction right away, and able to read and express simultaneously. So generally that doesn't start happening till second grade, and then usually kids are ready around fourth. So but she was a little bit of an early learner with that. So she was reading when she was doing the work. Yeah.
Wow. And so did you use your skills as a teacher?
That is a great question. It's a really interesting answer too, because I never technically coached Madigan like as I do with my students. Like, I never taught her everything, how to use this, you know, I teach from the outside in, it's called, and then the inside out. And I tell people when those two things cross in the middle, that's where the magic happens. And I also teach completely different for each person because everyone's an individual. Yeah, like
I love that
formula.
Like, that is true, right? With on camera, it's like it's so much from the inside, and it's almost like sometimes poo-pooed to be working from the outside in. But there's such a component of voice acting where you're physically taking on characteristics of like a face. If somebody's got big cheeks, or like if they get kind of an underbite, like you're actually working from the outside in. So I think that's very wise and a very interesting insight.
And in pitch, melody, intonation, speed, all those all the tools, your outside in toolbox that have to sort of be a part of the process of the inside, which is like, what you're feeling, who you're talking to, what verb you're playing, what is your subtext. You know, there's so many different tools on both sides. But so anyway, I think she picked up a lot of that because I coached her on her auditions, you know, and now like I'm basically push and record, you know what I mean? And then I'll say like, oh, I'm getting this line, you know, I really feel like you need to slow down and punctuate more, or think about who you're talking to, or this seemed a little flat. This is a comedic moment, you know, just little things like that. She doesn't need much because she's really good naturally. And so I try to actually stay out of her way more than anything. And then with her, she reads her own scripts. I don't prep her at all. Like, I'm not the director. I have nothing to do with. The only thing I'd say is like, did you prep your scripts? You know, did you? And I mean, not just highlight, read everyone's part and understand what's going on, you know. So, but she's really good about that. And you know, it's last minute sometimes.
Wow.
It's very last minute.
Yeah. But I'm sure for Madigan, growing up and seeing you do it, it probably has become second nature. And, you know, there's like an idea that, you know, that nepotism is a thing or it's a bad thing. And I don't think, a lot of times it's just literally it's in her bones. It's in her blood. She doesn't have to learn it because it's in her water, you know?
So like my husband is a composer and I acted for a little bit too, just try it. And he's a musical director. So our family's very artsy. And so it's kind of like something that she grew up with. It is interesting. And also, I just want to say this because I know I've said before, you and I both do authentic and then transformational. Madigan only does authentic right now. So what's amazing is like, I don't have to teach her how to be herself. Like she just has to bring herself to the role. But, you know, there will be a point where she's asked to transform and then I'll be like, okay, come to mama, because that's my specialty in terms of like teaching people how to, you know, begin that process.
Yeah. So it's funny because you mentioned that you are also a teacher, and obviously with your level of expertise and your experience in the business, you're very well qualified to teach. How did you come about starting as
a teacher in this? Because we're both moms, and it's important for us to be present with our kids. When my son was 5, I had some amazing directors and producers in my life. And I said, look, I'm not taking on any new relationships while my kids are this small. I did pull away and do a main, you know, focus on them during that time period. And that meant I could only go into the studio 2 days a week. I told them I think it was Mondays and Fridays. And so for some people that was like, oof, that's hard. Like we might get stuff on a Wednesday. And I was like, can you wait till Friday? Doing that, I was like, I need money. But also I was like, I love to teach. I taught Shakespeare when I was like in my late teens and early 20s to 4th and 5th graders.
Wow.
I had choreographed a little bit. You know, I'm not really a dancer I wanted to be. I had taught a lot. There were a lot of different reasons. I also had like a bunch of people coming to me at the same time saying, how do I do this? So one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to put it like, this is my schedule. If you fit into my schedule, great. It's audition and recommendation only, which means you have to have someone that vouches for you as a human. Are you a good human? Are you a responsible human? You know what I mean? You do show up. Are you respectful?
Are you going to do the work?
And then the audition is, do I think you have potential? You can tell me to F off and say, oh, well, you don't think I have potential? And I tell people, you can tell me to F off and go somewhere else. But in order for me to put my time and into you, I have to believe in you and you have to believe in you. So that was like, so there was a 2-part process of getting in. And I said 1 student per day in the morning. This is the funny part.
Wow.
While my son watches his cartoons. 8 a.m., 9 a.m., Monday through Friday, I had 5 students. That's how I started. So that I would put him, it was right before he went to kindergarten, and I'd sit him in front of the TV for his cartoons. It was so funny because like we're both experiencing the same thing, but from different, and he was right through the wall, you know, and I left the door open and he could come in anytime he wanted. I would tell all my students, like, I'm home with my son. My daughter was in school at that point. And I was like, and, you know, if you hear a little voice or if I might get interrupted, he almost never, I mean, I could count on one hand the amount of times that he did that just because he was so into cartoons, which like made me so happy. So I was like, this is your education time, which is hilarious. Most people were like, don't watch that. I was like, here's the cartoon education.
Yeah. Let's start with the class.
I mean, like, here's the media. Like, it's funny. I mean, artists, we want our kids
When I get
to experience art. To us, it's the joy of life.
Absolutely. And I love how you took motherhood as a jumping off point for starting a business and creating something amazing for yourself. I think it can really be challenging juggling your time as an artist when you suddenly give birth and your identity changes and your time is not your own anymore. And you were able to take those limitations and make something amazing. That's incredibly inspiring.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to some of the questions right now. We have 12 questions in here. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Okay. Erica, where is your favorite, Ken Collectors ask, where's your favorite con location? I guess we can also use this as an opportunity for you to share any conventions that you might have coming up so that people can have
I'm
opportunity.
not sure yet because I'm still like really starting to travel the country. Utah was stunning. It was so different to experience. That was just like a place where I was in awe of nature. You know, anywhere I looked, there were mountains. I was like, this is so beautiful. I can't even. So I loved being in Utah. I love going to Florida because my mom lived there. So I can see her when I'm there. It's been amazing. So every time I've gone to Florida, my mom and I have found each other. And I don't get to see her that often, so it's really cool. Obviously, going to California is really fun. I've enjoyed everywhere I've been. I don't have to go to a big city to have fun. I went dirt roading and where was I? Missouri, right outside of Kansas City. I can't remember the name of the town. Boy, did I have fun there with Linda Sorta. That's not her last name, but that's her Instagram. But anyway, we had a great time there. So I don't know. I love all the locations, but I'm going to Hawaii.
It's amazing. You have Hawaii. Going to Hawaii soon.
Oh yeah,
my God, that sounds like it's
Hawaii to Seattle, which is gonna be crazy. Seattle was gorgeous. I loved Seattle too. Yeah.
So are you taking?
Yes,
I get you to enjoy yourself.
2 days. Yeah, one with my husband and one without because he's gotta get going too. But that'll be like the first convention that he's going to with me, with that we didn't drive to like with the kids or something, some local thing. So that'll be exciting. Yeah.
Wow. Any stories about do you have any stories? We haven't talked about Yu-Gi-Oh at all. Do you have any stories about the current season of Yu-Gi-Oh? That you voiced Missy and
not Miss
others.
But that might be like a miscredit. Those things happen all the time. But
okay. So
I think a lot of people credit me as that, but I don't think it was me because I think I listened on YouTube and I was like, that's not me. But do I have any current stories about it? So, well, I'm looking at the desktop right here. I have the voice saved because I very rarely voice now in this particular arc, Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s. I play Mrs. Drone. And what's really funny is like the first few times I told people what I played, I called it Mrs. Droid because I was just like, I don't know, it sounds very similar. But I just got to meet the whole cast. Obviously, a lot of them I knew from the past, but Aaron Dunstan, the director, had a shindig in New York for all of us. And then he was with you guys. He was in LA, meeting hanging out with the whole Los Angeles cast. So yeah, he just went,
amazing.
And that was so much fun. Just seeing some of the producers that I worked with for 20 years were there. And I was like, oh my God. And like, we have this engineer that everybody loves. I'm just looking at these comments finally. I was looking at them and all before. Joe Shalik is his real name, but we all call him Joe Vegas because he likes to gamble. And Joe is like one of the best engineers in the world. First of all, he's just fast. He's so fast that he'll just like, pull something that you did where you were like, or something, just something crazy that you did, like, you just make a sound and he'll pull that, put it in a little thing. And then every time you come into the studio, he'll be like, just like play whatever thing will embarrass you. Between cues, he would just like play it. Joe was so much fun. So I hadn't seen Joe in a really long time. So it was like big hug time. Yeah. And he helped me out the other day. I had to change a file and I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I was like, Joe, help me. And he saved the day. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of being asked of voice actors these days in terms of recording and things that we didn't have to do 10 years ago that now we're responsible at Save It As a Wave, 4800.
Yeah, you know
hertz and whatever.
Differently. Like sometimes I'm using 3 different systems just to record. Sometimes I'm using 2, and it's never the same. I mean, it's the same for that company or that director, but like I think I've worked 12 different ways since the pandemic, like 12 different combinations of systems. And it's funny because Source Connect, the one that we have to have, is like, ain't nobody using that now. Like, right? I don't know, like so few people they can have it. Yeah. But so few people use it. You know, it's more like SessionLink Pro, or there's just 100 others, you know.
With the pandemic opening things up remotely, what has it been like for you working on?
That's a great question. It was awesome. I mean, I say was because it's not that it isn't still continuing, but that the preferences have gone back local, you know? So it's like, you're really gonna impress. Where it was kind of an equal playing field for a little while there. It's like you would have to like pull it out there for a New York thing. I would have to pull it out there for an LA thing, because casting directors do like to work with people that they know, you know, that they have a track record with, or that to call those people in, and directors like to do that. But it was great. I mean, it was really fun to just start working on a bunch of Crunchyroll projects, you know, or Funimation at the time. And I was like, this is a blast. I'm having, you know, a fantastic time. And yeah, it really opened up a lot of different work that I wasn't doing before. So yeah.
Now, what was it like voicing the original Luffy from One Piece?
It was awesome.
Luffy
I loved it.
from One Piece.
A lot of people have different opinions about it, and I love opinions because that's what makes us an audience, and that's what makes us artists. Even audience members are artists because we're interpreting what we like about something, what we don't like about it. For what it was for me, the experience that I had, it was nothing but positive and wonderful. I really enjoyed we had a week with members of Japan, of the Japanese team. Like they came in, and then I think 3 weeks with 4 kids total, but then about a week with me, and we had board meetings. We talked about the character. We didn't even record. Like I was like, this feels like my Broadway stuff. Like this feels like what's called table work. I don't know if you guys know what it is, but like table work, because we're talking about things that are important, but we're not necessarily, you know, we're doing work, but we're not doing the work, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And depending on if you're doing a play where the director really likes to do a lot of table work, you could spend a week at the table. So that was fun and exciting, and you know, I enjoyed the whole process and the whole ride. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. And do you watch anime in your spare time?
My son does.
Mm-hmm.
He's really into it.
Oh, wow.
Really into anime right now. It's not that I haven't seen anything. Like I did watch all of Suppose a Kid. Here comes another title for you, Allison. Not Girl, Dog, Cat, Mouse, Cheese, but Suppose a Kid from the last Dungeon Boonies moved to a starter town.
Yes, that's the title.
That was another one that took me like 6 months to learn how to say. I just started saying Boonies, or Dungeon Boonies. I would like panic when someone asked me like, what are you working on? I'd be like, bah, you know. I could not work on Titler. I was like, where is he? They were like, what dungeon? I was like, I don't know. So finally, when I learned how to say it, anyway, my son was starting to get into anime. So I was like, I'll watch it with him. I'll watch it. It was really fun. And then he ended up watching it last year a second time. It was really cute, really cute. He goes, "Ma, you know that Dungeon Boonies show?" I was like, yeah. He's like, that's a good one. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I think it's gonna be a slow burn, but it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Sleeper.
Like he thinks, and I really enjoyed watching it. I thought it was great. I worked with Damon Mills on that. He was the director, and he's fun to work with. I mean, I love that guy. Yeah.
Wow. What's the most challenging character you've ever voiced?
It's always surprising when I talk about this. I think the beginning of Blaze the Cat. Look, Blaze is right here. Mm. And I think this is from Ed/Adam. And I'll tell you why. Because Blaze is kind of close to me in certain ways. So not like super far away, but not just that. So there were a lot of people in the room, you know. And the more people that are in the room, the more input there is, the more pressure there is to get it right, but also the more pressure there is to like put together different adjectives. You know, one of the classes that I used to love to teach was like, we would just throw adjectives that made sense together with adjectives that didn't make sense or seemingly didn't make sense. But then when you layered them together, the character's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's not,
It doesn't mean you have to be both of these things at once all the time. You can. You could try. But you can also say, oh, when this character is talking to their mother, this adjective is more prominent, as opposed to when they're talking to their grandfather, and then this adjective takes over, you know? But anyway, so Blaze was very layered, lots of input, you know, more than I think I was used to hearing. And some of it conflicted, you know, some of it seemed to be conflicting, but it wasn't. It all went together. So it just took a little more time for it to really like sink in. And then once it did, it was sort of sailing from there. And they just, you know, every couple of years, they'd be like, here's a new one. Here's a new one. You know, so I did like seven games, and it was a blast. I loved every minute.
Had Blaze existed, had she been voiced?
No, not. I mean, there was obviously the original language, but I was the first English voice actor for Blaze the cat. Yeah.
Wow. And so what now, because Blaze, you know, then appears in the series and stuff like that, is it, and you have a number of iconic characters that have also been voiced by other actors. Do you ever feel like ownership over a character, or?
No, I'm fun with people who like believes that it belongs to the writer first, and then the artist second, and the voice actor third. And I also think it's like, Blaze will never leave me. I will always be Blaze. Blaze will always be me. But that doesn't mean that Blaze can't be other people. Like, think of how many people voiced Batman, you know? And I think for Emma Frost, it might have been the 7th. I don't even know, actually. I checked. But I've been the first, I've been the second, I've been the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And I definitely to hear from other voice actors who voiced my roles before, after me. And I genuinely don't feel like threatened. I know some people do. I don't know where that comes from, but I really don't know. But I think for me, my parents did a good job in teaching me to be generous. And I think that it kind of extended in other ways in my life that maybe they didn't expect. But like meeting Megan, you know, like she and I are both going out as Mai Valentine and Nurse Joy. And like we actually got adventures, and so there was once where we both were booked at the same one, you know, and so we finally got to meet, and we were just like awesome with each other. We took lots of pictures with the same cosplayers. We took pictures together, and it was just like, there's always room, you know, there's always room for everyone. And I do believe that. And because the other way of being is not healthy, you know, it's just not healthy.
I know. And once you go down that path, it's really hard to get off it, because there is a certain amount as an artist, because there is, you know, if you are auditioning, there may be 600, 1,000, 2,000 people reading for a role, and it's going to go to one person. So it can easily play into a scarcity mindset of like, I didn't get it, you know, I lost, as opposed to the person that got it won. And there's just no cheese down the end of it.
The other thing is like, I've always thought whatever's meant to be is meant to be. We have no control over it. We can manifest as much as we want, but at the end of the day, it's going to go where it's going to go. We have no control over it. And that's like, do you remember Phoebe from Friends when she said like putting it in the bubble and letting it go? What episode?
My mom says that. I didn't know she got it from Phoebe from Friends, though. Put it in a bubble and blow it away.
Maybe it came before Phoebe, but I remember Phoebe kind of talking about that and thinking like, that's a really good way to live. You know, like, you know how many auditions we do in a week, and it's like, you just got to let it go. I never think about it again. Is it going to come back to me? Like, is it going to be a boomerang, or is it going to be a frisbee? So I just send it out like a frisbee. And if it's a boomerang, I'm like, yay for the boomerang, Always a good surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that. Wow. Such a wise woman, Erica.
Yeah.
It's been so lovely chatting with you. Before we go, do you have any words of wisdom or anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Oh, you want some pearls of wisdom?
Yeah, do you have any parting words that you would like to leave us
For those that are
wrap it up?
pursuing or just in life in general? Life in general. Think about like what Allison and I just talked about, like not being, I think what's really important is never feeling competitive with another person. You have to be competitive with yourself. Am I doing my best? Am I living my best life? Am I giving my all? Because if you're not giving your all, then you can do better next time. Compete against yourself. Don't compete against other people. It's a downward spiral and you will never find joy. And also when you're auditioning, and this I guess is specific to actors, find joy in it because it's a moment to perform and it might not be live anymore that much. That's sad.
Or in front of anybody.
I love live audition.
Microphone.
Yeah, I mean, I like my best friend of live auditioning. I really do. I feel like
I do too.
Yeah, people don't realize now that directors can't tell if you're directable anymore because they're not experiencing you live. They don't know how long it's taking to get from point A.
That'd be hard, right?
It may have taken you 45 minutes where a live audition. It's got to take less than 45 seconds.
And it might just be the person who interprets copy the best that becomes, that gets the job and not necessarily the person that takes direction the best or street.
One of the big things. Enjoy every minute of auditioning, find your passion and your love while you're doing it and look at it as a chance to perform. And that's going to be your best shot at anything, I think.
Yeah. Wise words, Erica. It's been so lovely getting to see your face. I hope you get that last and in person this year. Hopefully we'll have them around manifest that.
Well, I'm going to Collecticon Long Beach, so I'll message you and see if we can get together. I would love that.
That'd be great.
All go out together.
Yay! Let's do it. Yay.
Long back.
Well, lots of love to you, my lady. And we'll see you guys soon. Thank you all for tuning in.